Let's talk about some of these other guys. Coach Prime is one, and you and I have gone back and forth on what Deion Sanders may or may not be able to do in year two. I think, and I may be wrong here, but I think if they just make a bowl game, that's acceptable progress given where he started.
Agreed. I think if they get a bowl game year two, 7 wins would be great. I think if you can get in that range, then you start to see like the proof of concept as far as this is winning football. But I think, like, of course, their aspirations are way higher than that, and I'm cool with their aspirations being high because I'm not one of those guys that says, oh, you got to be realistic. There's nothing realistic about my life, and there's nothing realistic about Deion's either. So of course, when other people say, oh, well, you got to be realistic and you won't be able to do that, he doesn't see it that way. I mean, when you look at it, he's Deion Sanders. What is realistic about him, period? None of that is realistic. So I think that, yeah, but to your point, I think 6-7 wins is a win for them. I mean, there's not an easy one on the schedule, in my opinion. I think they play guys every week. There's not a gimme game on that schedule, including North Dakota State, who plays a great brand of football, and they're notorious for spanking people who come in not expecting them to play well. So I think, and they play very, very disciplined football, which is something that I think that Colorado could have done better last year, is be more disciplined at times. So I think that where Colorado is right now, they're at a point where they've raised the talent level on that roster to now they have a second they have a second defensive line. If somebody gets hurt on the offensive line, you can't just spot a position where, hey, we're going to attack this guy and we're going to beat him for 4 sacks alone. That guy from Colorado State last year is still sacking the quarterback right now. Like they're like exactly. So like, but now this year that doesn't happen. I don't see them being able to get game wrecked by one player because they have more talent on the roster. And I think, yeah, I absolutely think that they're contending to get 6-7 wins, and I think that's a win for them.
I do too. It's crazy because the conversation about Deion, it's like the Deion fans get mad if you say something like that because they're like, no, they're going to win the Big 12 this year. And then everybody who hates Deion, and go back and watch Duke's video on this because it was perfect because he explains it perfectly. Like people either love him or hate him. There's no like middle ground in the discussion. And so the people who hate Deion are like, well, they're going to go 3-9 this year. I do think there's incremental improvement to be had, but you made a great point about the discipline. Let's look at that schedule again, because North Dakota State, incredibly disciplined football program. You're going to hear from David Braun, the Northwestern coach, a little bit later, who came through North Dakota State. Nebraska, we don't know about them on offense, but we do know defensively they're going to be very good, very disciplined. Kansas State, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State, all teams that are going to hit you in the mouth, be where they're supposed to be. Like if you make mistakes, if you get sloppy, they will beat you. Like those are the ones you got to be very careful with. Arizona is just kind of star-studded this year. We'll see how they play under Brent Brennan, but they got dudes. And yeah, you're right. If they're not disciplined, this could go bad. And so that is the biggest thing they have to improve upon from last year. But I think we're on the same page, Dukes, on what success is for Colorado, even if Deion says he wants more. But I go back to like Kirk Cignetti, the Indiana coach, talking to him last week, where he's like, why are we limiting ourselves to just saying we need to beat Purdue? Like, I'm gonna say we're gonna try to beat Michigan and Ohio State. Like, if we don't make it, that's okay. We're not limiting ourselves though.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, people are mad at Deion because he's saying he wants them to go to the playoffs. Well, I don't wake up. I don't go to work anywhere and say I just want to be the best at my job title. No, I have aspirations bigger and better. That's what you want to do. So I think Deion Sanders has that same thing. And then you got to think he's got 2 top 5 picks on the roster. Not saying that's the end all be all, but when those top 5 picks are a battery, that like where actually Shedeur will be throwing the ball to another top 5 pick, whether it's defense, offense. As an athlete, Travis Hunter is one of the best players in the world. So in the nation of college football. So when you think about it, they have star talent. They have guys who are going to raise their level of play. And this team is way more talented than last year's 4-win team. And if you just go based off trajectory, another 3 wins, I think, and especially in this conference, like you don't see any there's no fluff on that schedule. That's a pretty decent schedule. So if you add 3 wins there, then of course. And I think that if they do any better, if they pick up momentum, this is the whole thing, in my opinion. Let them mess around and get 5-2 and pick up some real momentum. Then I start to think how much difficult Colorado becomes when you have a roster that is built the way this one is, where you have depth. Last year they had no depth. You punch them in the mouth and the guy has to go out. Then it was a little bit worse and people started to get down on themselves. This year, the roster is different, and I think they can be successful.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.